The courtroom was supposed to be solemn, steady, respectful. Instead, it became a stage for humiliation. Cameras rolled, journalists scribbled, and the public tuned in expecting another routine exchange. Then Judge Andrew H. Stones leaned back in his chair, smirked, and let out a laugh. A laugh that wasn't casual, it was sharp, dismissive, designed to cut. And it was aimed at Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. The sound echoed in the chamber, bouncing off marble walls, lingering like a challenge. Crockett didn't move. She didn't flinch. She just stared, her silence louder than his laughter. America held its breath. Because this wasn't just a courtroom moment. It was a collision between arrogance and resilience, between a man who thought power meant mockery and a woman who knew power meant dignity. What happened next would ignite headlines, fuel hashtags, and become the clip that defined the week. But in that frozen second before the eruption, the stage was set. Stones with his condescension, Crockett with her unshakable calm, and a nation waiting to see whether laughter would crush dignity, or whether dignity would flip the script. And when Crockett finally opened her mouth, history was ready to listen. This wasn't just another exchange in Washington. It was a reflection of something deeper, something millions of Americans felt in their bones. To some, Stones, laughter symbolized the arrogance of a system stacked against ordinary people. It was the sneer of privilege, the sound of someone too comfortable in their power. And for many watching, it was personal. It reminded them of every boardroom smirk, every classroom dismissal, every time their accent, their gender, their skin color was made the punchline. But Crockett wasn't just another target. She was a woman forged in struggle, carrying not only her own story but the weight of those who saw themselves in her. That courtroom had become more than four walls. It was America itself. And that laugh, it was the spark, the test, the moment to show whether dignity could hold its ground. What the judge didn't know was that his laughter wouldn't end the exchange. It would set off a storm, one that would ripple far beyond those walls, reshaping the debate not just in that chamber but across the nation. Because what came next didn't just change the mood of the courtroom, it changed the conversation for millions. Who was Judge Andrew H. Stones? On paper, a decorated jurist respected in elite circles, the kind of figure newspapers labeled as tough but fair. But scratch the surface, and a different picture emerged. For years, Stones cultivated an image of authority, but authority without empathy can curdle into arrogance. His critics whispered about his habit of belittling those he deemed less informed. Reporters caught his dismissive gestures, his sharp asides, his reputation for wielding the bench like a throne. In a world craving humility, Stones doubled down on superiority. And the laugh he unleashed at Crockett wasn't an accident. It was the natural extension of a pattern. A laugh to belittle, a laugh to silence, a laugh to remind everyone who, in his eyes, was in control. But history has a way of turning arrogance into downfall. And what Stones didn't see was that every smirk, every chuckle at another's expense, was fuel for a fire he couldn't control. Because arrogance may sit comfortably in the short term, but dignity has a way of rewriting the ending. And Crockett in that courtroom was about to hold the pen. Jasmine Crockett's story wasn't written in marble courtrooms. It was written in the grit of real life. Raised not by privilege but by perseverance, she carried the lessons of community, sacrifice, and service. She knew what it meant to fight for space in rooms not built for her. She knew the weight of being underestimated, the sting of being dismissed. Her journey into politics wasn't about chasing headlines. It was about standing for people who felt invisible. Every immigrant mother working 2 jobs, every young woman told to wait her turn, every student mocked for daring to dream, Crockett carried them all with her. So when Stones laughed, it wasn't just at her. It was at the countless stories she represented. And that's why she didn't flinch. That's why she didn't fire back with volume or anger. She had faced harder fights before, and she knew true strength wasn't loud, it was steady. Her calm wasn't weakness, it was strategy. It was survival. It was the quiet confidence of someone who had turned obstacles into stepping stones her whole life. And in that courtroom, she was about to do it again. The silence after Stone's laugh was deafening. Reporters exchanged glances, waiting for the eruption. Viewers at home leaned forward, expecting Crockett to snap, to match mockery with outrage. But instead she remained still. Her eyes locked on Stone's, her expression unreadable, and then she spoke. Her words weren't raised, but they cut deeper than any shout. Calm, measured, deliberate, each syllable carried the weight of truth. She didn't need to match his arrogance, she exposed it. The courtroom shifted. What began as laughter from the bench turned into murmurs among the crowd. Phones buzzed as journalists tweeted in real time. Crockett responds with ice-cold composure. The clash wasn't just verbal, it was emotional. Stone's grew visibly unsettled. His smirk faltered. His authority, once so assured, now looked shaky. And still, Crockett didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to, because while Stone's had tried to make her the spectacle, she turned the spotlight back on him. The escalation was clear, arrogance unraveling, dignity ascending, and the tension crackled in the air. Because the real blow, the moment that would echo far beyond the courtroom, was still to come. Then it happened, the line. Crockett leaned forward, voice steady, eyes unwavering, and delivered the words that would replay across TikTok, Twitter, and late-night shows. She didn't insult. She didn't mock. She revealed. In a single, devastating statement, she reframed the entire exchange. Stone's laughter wasn't strength, it was weakness. It wasn't power, it was insecurity. And Crockett, with precision and poise, turned his arrogance into his undoing. The courtroom erupted. Gasps, whispers, even a few stifled claps. Stone's froze, caught in the spotlight of his own misstep. And at home, millions of viewers leaned back in their chairs, shaking their heads, smiling, sharing the clip. The hashtag was born, Crockett Clapback. It wasn't the volume of her words, but the truth inside them that hit like a thunderclap. She had stood firm, she had endured the laugh, and in the end, she owned the moment. The mic drop wasn't a shout, it was a whisper sharpened into a blade, and it left Stone's without a shield. But the real storm, that was waiting online. Within minutes, the clip exploded, Twitter feeds filled with the hashtag. TikTok edits layered Crockett's words over triumphant music. Instagram memes captured Stone's smirk dissolving into silence. Celebrities weighed in. Commentators called it the defining exchange of the year. Activists framed it as proof that arrogance always falls before dignity. And ordinary Americans, teachers, nurses, students, shared their own stories of being laughed at, dismissed, underestimated. Crockett's moment became their moment. The ripple effect reached newsrooms and late-night monologues. Stone's was suddenly the face of condescension. Crockett, the emblem of composure. The clash had escaped the courtroom. It was now a cultural flashpoint. And yet, even as the internet roared, one question lingered. What would Crockett do with this new spotlight? Would she let the moment fade into meme territory, or would she channel it into something bigger, something lasting? The nation was watching. The stakes had grown, and the answer was about to define not just the clip but the legacy. As the dust settled, a truth emerged more powerful than the laughter, more lasting than the headline. Crockett's response wasn't just a viral clip, it was a parable about dignity, courage, and the strength of calm in the face of arrogance. Her composure reframed the entire encounter. What many expected to be another forgettable courtroom spat became something bigger, a reminder that true authority isn't about who shouts the loudest or sneers the cruelest. It's about who holds steady when tested. For millions watching, Crockett's restraint became a mirror. Immigrant families saw their struggles reflected in her patience. Young women recognized the subtle weight of condescension and the power of refusing to shrink. Progressives celebrated her as proof that justice doesn't need theatrics, it needs clarity, honesty, and backbone. The lesson was unmistakable. Dignity always outlives arrogance. A laugh fades in seconds, but truth, spoken calmly, can echo for generations. Even critics found themselves forced to reckon with the moment. Was this the kind of leadership Americans wanted, mockery from the bench, or courage under pressure from the witness stand? The contrast was stark. The answer, for many, was obvious. And so, what began as a smirk from Judge Stones ended as a reminder for America. Strength is not cruelty, and power is not noise. Real power is the stillness that silences the storm. But as the applause grew online, one final test remained. How would Crockett turn this viral firestorm into a lasting call for justice? The title told us everything. A judge laughed, but Jasmine Crockett stunned the court. And now, the story belongs to all of us. What lingers is not the arrogance of a smirk, but the unshakable poise of a leader who refused to bend. In a world addicted to outrage and spectacle, Crockett reminded us of something timeless. Composure is revolutionary. Calm is not weakness, it's the ultimate form of strength. So let this moment echo beyond the courtroom. Let it ripple